What is good, Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Thank you for joining. The New York Times strikes again. Whenever the New York Times drops a new op-ed, it's something to behold. They're flipping the headlines now also. So this is the original headline. Want to enhance civil liberties? Embrace vaccine mandates. It's could have easily been on The Onion or Babylon Bee. But this is a serious opinion piece in the New York Times by the ACLU. I think it's time to laugh to keep from crying. I know it's serious. Like if they're playing with something that's life or death, there's nothing that they wouldn't lie about. But how do you not laugh at this? Here's a quote from the opinion piece. Before I do that, ACLU. What is the ACLU? It's the American Civil Liberties Union, founded in 1920, and I quote, is our nation's guardian of liberty. The ACLU works in the courts, legislators, and communities to defend, preserve the individual rights and liberties guaranteed to all people in this country by the Constitution and laws of the United States. Keyword, individual rights. In this case, the ACLU is making the case that fighting for the collective right over the individual right actually strengthens the individual right. I'm not kidding. I quote, in fact, far from compromising civil liberties, vaccine mandates actually further civil liberties. They protect the most vulnerable among us, including people with disabilities and fragile immune systems, children too young to be vaccinated, and communities of color hit hard by the disease. That's a quote from the opinion piece. They're literally saying the government forcing you to do this is better for your civil liberty. Now, I am here for the right thing to be done, for everyone to be healthy. I am looking at all the information. But when you look at this organization, this is not a health organization. This is a civil liberties organization, or supposedly. Their number one concern should be civil liberties, not mandates. They didn't even have the opinion, well, let's do this, but we are going to be your guardian to make sure once we get through it that your civil liberties are returned. I still wouldn't like it, but at least it would make sense towards the goal of the organization to say we are here to monitor to make sure civil liberties are not gone for good. Don't worry. We know this stuff is happening now. We are watching to make sure that it doesn't go on forever. Nope. They will fight for the right for the government to roll up your sleeve, and they'll probably be the ones holding it up for the government. It's you couldn't make this up. There is nothing more concerning than losing liberty under the guise of safety, under the guise of protection, because there are only few things. I can only think of two things that will get people as they are now to eagerly lose their individual liberties and actually fight other people to lose their individual liberties. For example, people supporting Antifa. Antifa was actually fighting people who were protesting mask mandates. So they were fighting on behalf of the anti-fascist group, on behalf of the government to enforce a mandate. There are only a couple things that allow people to support something like that. One is war. And two is a pandemic safety, which you've heard people say this is like war. Those are probably the two major things that will get people to do it. They're not in France, they're protesting. Here in America, we're not at that level. There's interesting ties. You wonder, you might be watching this, and if you're not fully red-pilled, like, what do you mean? I cannot prove any type of conspiracy. I am not alleging that. I am saying what the outcome is, what's actually happening. So tyranny is happening. I don't know what the conspiracy is behind the scene. I can guess, but I know tyranny is happening. I don't know exactly why. But there's some ties. And again, I'm looking at China. Now, there's been a lot of talk about China. I've been hesitant to bring up China because it's just, I don't even like saying the word fascist. I don't like saying the word racist. I don't even like bringing up China because everyone's bringing it up and it just doesn't mean anything anymore. But it's hard to ignore these ties. There's an article somebody shared on Twitter. I was not aware of this. This article came out in May, and it showed ties between Mark Rosenbaum, who formerly served as chief of counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union of Southern California, the Foundation of Southern California, that he lectured at a Chinese university's School of Transnational Law. This is very concerning to have someone with ties with the American Civil Liberties Union to the Chinese totalitarian government. Now, when I talk about the American government, when I say I love my country, I'm talking about fellow citizens. When I say I love fellow citizens across the world, whether it's in Australia or Iceland or Zimbabwe or Liberia or Germany, I love my fellow citizens, common people. The government is a whole different entity. I don't want to say the people in the government are bad, but the structure turns them to have conflicts of interest that go against common people. So when I have concerns about China, I'm not talking about the common Chinese citizen. They don't have a say in this matter. I am not Antifa. I'm not going to be attacking fellow citizens. I'm looking at the structure of the government. Even when I criticize Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell and others here, it's nothing against them personally. I don't know them. It's about the structure and it's about their conflict of interests and how that plays out to affect us. So this is a story that matters. At ACLU council doubled as professor for Chinese communist-run university, the university that was flagged for espionage by the FBI. And I'll quote, I'm reading from the National Pulse. The Beijing-based university headed by the former Chinese Communist Party spy agency leader. So this is a university, a Beijing-based university headed by a former Chinese spy. Chinese spy agency leader. Kind of like Putin was a ex-KGB leader. Has seen its American graduates questioned by the Federal Bureau of Investigation over fears of students being co-opted by Chinese espionage efforts. Among the courses taught by Rosenbaum are equal protection law and First Amendment law. This course examines contemporary issues of free speech in the context of U.S. Constitution, First Amendment law, the uses and values of free speech, whether certain categories of speech deserve more or less protection, political speech, censorship, and discrimination based on content, hate speech and racist speech, obscenity and pornography and feminism and symbolic speech, one course summary notes. If he's speaking about that in a Chinese communist totalitarian government, that's not coming from an American value position. The ex-chief counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union Foundation of Southern California, the most liberal part of our country, probably, Southern California or Pacific Northwest. After we laugh at a civil liberties union trying to claim that losing civil liberties makes civil liberties stronger, after we're done laughing, we need to start asking why.
When is the last time you paused and saw the beauty around you rather than the storms? So take a moment. What are you grateful for today?
I'm going to bring up Bryson Gray again. I don't subscribe to organized religion because I'm concerned. I believe in God, but I'm concerned about the story of God as told through men. Because of the same type of stuff I was talking about with the ACLU. The story of liberties told by someone who speaks in a communist totalitarian university, or a group that hires someone as their lawyer to do that. That's a problem for me. What I like about Bryson Gray is he has a channel. It's a great name. It's called Bryson and a Bible. And that's it. He's like, I just read the Bible. Now, I know the Bible is written by man, but it's not, you can't get much more pure than that. And even if the Bible's written by man, I can see it, read it, and interpret and see what it means in my life. And what I like about Bryson Gray is he's a critical thinker. And even if I don't agree with him on everything I've mentioned before, I'm just like, man, Bryson, I wish you were just a little bit more sensitive to certain, identity groups, because it makes him easy to be targeted. But he wouldn't be himself. But what I like is I can follow his process, whether I agree or disagree, and I see how he's thinking critically. He has proof for his positions. I'm going to leave you with this. On his channel, he talked about, does the Bible say it's okay to judge other people or not? And I do agree with him on this point. It's just obvious. You have to judge people, and you can't walk through life without judging people, but listen to how he thinks through this critically. Let me know what you think. Take care.
Top 3 biblical myths debunked. We're about to dive into some of the biggest myths told in churches today and has been for a very long time. I want to thank all of you for subscribing to my new YouTube channel, Bryson and a Bible. We're going to dive into biblical history and everything dealing with the Bible is what this channel will be based around. So let's go. Let's dive in. The first myth, and in my opinion, the biggest one that we have to debunk, is Christians are not supposed to judge. Now, everybody gets this from Matthew chapter 7, and they don't even read the entire first verse of that chapter. They literally read the first half of the first verse, and it says, "Thou shalt not judge." But if you actually continue reading, it's literally telling you to not judge hypocritically. This is how we know that it's just telling you not to judge hypocritically. Because if you go to verse 5, it reads, and I'm reading directly, it says, "Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thy own eye, and then thou shalt see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye." If you continue reading, it's continuing to talk about to not be a hypocrite while judging. This is the easiest one to debunk. And just to really dive in further, if we go into the Tanakh, which most of you know as the Old Testament, I don't call it that. I think it's disrespectful. If we go to Leviticus 19:15, it says judge your neighbor fairly. If you go to Deuteronomy 1:16, it says judge righteously. If you go to John 7:24, there are many verses obviously tell you we have to judge. It also says judge a tree by its fruit. I mean, come on, guys. People say the "thou shalt not judge" things so they can get out of calling out sin and doing their job as a Christian. So first one, debunk. Myth